Yo, 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 it's your friend Dinner Dog. And SotN is an action RPG, so we should understand some of the elements of action RPGs. And today we're going to look at your statistics and status effects. So let's break it down here. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that your stats and status effects are unchanged in the randomizer. It works exactly the same way as it always does. There are a couple of presets that have an exception where like it starts you with more of a statistic than you normally do. You usually got the preset video for that. Don't worry about it. All right. What their impact is and how much you gain and all that stuff is practically the same. So that being said, if you're a purely 100 level player, what you want to know is the difference between strength and intelligence, how Constitution works, effects, and why you don't care about luck. All right. The If you're a higher level player or you're just a nerd, then I'm gonna be going through some of the mechanics and all that kind of stuff. Right. So if you bounce at the midway point of this video, that's fine. If you skip to the midway point of this video, that's fine. Like always, there's like touch points at the bottom of the video that will take you to the section you want. All right, so let's just get into it. Okay, so what's the deal with strength and intelligence? All right, so they're both trying to do the same thing. We want to hurt people with our strength and we want to hurt people with our intelligence, all right? But they work kind of in different ways. So the way we hurt people with strength is that if an action is dependent on what is in your hand, then strength increases damage, all right? So the sword in your hand, if that's how I'm doing damage, then it's based on strength, right? If I am punching someone in the mouth, that depends on what's in or in absence of my hand. So that is strength. The shield rod spells are determined by what's in your hand. The shield rod of the Moblong and a shield. So even though we often call them shield spells, they're actually governed by strength. This weapon specials, even like the moon rod, are all governed by strength. It doesn't matter if they use your MP. It doesn't matter if it looks really flashy. It doesn't matter if you say that, well, that in other games that'd be intelligence. If what is in your hand dictates what's happening, then it is based on strength. And then intelligence is practically everything else. So when we use spells, does it matter what's in our hand? You're right. No, right? Or you said it does, and like just rewind the video then, right? The So transformations, does it matter what's in our hand? No, right? Because when we're transformed, our hands don't really matter, and that includes the Axe Lord armor. Yo, is the Axe Lord armor in your hands? Then it's intelligence that increases the Axe Lord armor damage. All right. The same with sub weapons. We can throw sub weapons no matter what's in our hands, right? So that's how the game differentiates from it. If it's in your hands and it mattered when you used it, then it's strength. Everything else is dictated by intelligence, all right? So let's then look at Constitution. So the whole deal with Constitution is that it increases your defense. But if you stay for the nerd part of this video, you're going to realize that you quickly get diminishing returns for this. The the same kind of applies with status duration, except you don't really suffer from the same diminishing returns. But the other cool piece about Constitution, which is usually the one that matters most to higher level rando players, is that it's reducing the status effect duration, right? In particular for poison, because it lasts so long, you can see that the minimum with no Constitution is 81 seconds, or sorry, the maximum is 81 seconds. The minimum, regardless of how much Constitution you have, is just over 5 seconds. And the same applies for Curse. It doesn't apply for, or Constitution does not impact your the status of stoned, because it just doesn't. It's just based on how fast you can mash the D-pad. Okay, so because we're talking about status effect duration, we should probably understand what status effects do. Okay, so let's take an aside before we look at luck, which doesn't really matter anyways. Okay, so what does poison actually do? So, like all status effects, having any status effect, whether poison, curse, or stone, is going to stop our MP regeneration. That sucks. We don't want that, especially like early in the game. The spells can be really cool. If we don't have the MP to do things, it really sucks. All right, so that's bad. Then we're going to go further. We're going to have the damage we deal with our weapons or like anything in our hands. It doesn't impact our spells, all right? So it only impacts strength-based things not our spells, so you can still use spells pretty effectively under poison, although you won't have the same MP potentially to cast them. So yeah, take it for what you will. And then we're gonna take double damage, right? And this is prior to calculating defense. The and so an interesting thing here is that our the things that status affect Alucard also status affect Doppelganger, both the Doppelganger 10 and 40 variants. But the double damage taken isn't an impact for either Doppelganger. So although you could poison them to have the damage that they deal to you, you're not going to deal double damage to them based on this. So it's not the greatest. There's better things you can do. For Curse, and Curse isn't as big of a deal because it only lasts 20 seconds at most, but it stops your MP regeneration, and it interrupts the use of weapons and shields, which makes sense. Not your fists, though, so you can unequip and punch things. The throw items that deal damage, and for some reason, meal tickets and food you can't use. That sucks. It doesn't interrupt your sub weapons, your non-attack items, which includes potions, so you can still heal. Like, I don't know. The food thing's kind of silly. You can still use spells, and even though you can't use meal tickets, you can use library cards. So yeah, it's fun. All right. The So yeah, that's how that works there. The curse isn't a big deal because it doesn't last very long, and there's so many other things you can do. And the areas of the game that you get cursed, except for like maybe the trio fight if you let Trevor touch you, it's not really a big deal. All right. So lastly, let's look at stone. So your constitution doesn't matter here at all. The only thing that gets you to stone faster is pushing directions as fast as possible. So only the D-pad matters. The rest of the buttons don't. The getting hit also hastens getting out of stone, and of course, like the fairy, if she has a hammer, can get you out of stone like immediately. So damage works really odd when you're stoned. So when you're stoned, damage is applied as a percentage of your max HP, no matter the source of damage or how much would have been done to you. So you can see in this example here, me getting hit by a Medusa head did 134 damage because I was using a very beefy character. The same amount of damage I receive if I'm getting hit by spikes. So it's around 12.5%. So if you're really low on health and you get stoned and a few things get into you, especially like where I tested this, which is in the outer wall. So I got hit by a Medusa, the yellow one, and then it put me into the the hitbox of the Sword Lord, and I just kept getting hit multiple times, and it sucked. My health just drained. Now thankfully every hit will also get you out of stone faster. So like being stoned and taking hits won't kill you, but if you're lower enough health, just like if it won't kill you if you're at max health. If you're lower health, it might kill you. So it's a bit of a problem. And you can also you can stone DOP 40 and DOP 10. This damage calculation doesn't seem to apply to Doppelganger though, but you can stop them and essentially get free hits, which is really good. If you get cursed, it doesn't cleanse poison or vice versa. The only things that cleanse your status effects in these cases are load zone transitions, which is very cool, especially in the early game. If you get poisoned by a spittlebone and you're still poisoned by the time you get to the end of the laboratory, you won't be poisoned when you transition to the marble gallery. And library carding, even if you're in the library, does cleanse your status because it probably reloads the area. Okay, so that's all about status effects. If you got questions or more insights, add them into the comments, all good stuff. All right, let's take a look at luck. And luck doesn't matter, all right? So here's the deal. I don't know if I mentioned to begin with, but most of the work that came into this video is based on an old game FAQ by a lad named Zach, all right? I'm going to link it in the description. It's very worthwhile to read through. Maybe not everything, but there's a lot of great nuggets of information in it. It's very trivia, all right? It doesn't include calculations for luck. I asked around the long library. People had more important things to do. So here's the deal with luck. A, it doesn't really have much of an impact, and B, there really isn't a lot of great ways to add luck except for like your accessory slot. And my understanding, and it could absolutely be wrong, is that like you need to build up a lot of luck for it to actually be really impactful. There is a calculator that I found, but all it does is shows you the what the drop rate of enemies are, and it goes up or down based on you removing luck or rings of arcana and stuff like that, but it doesn't actually show the calculation. Quite frankly, I wasn't in a mood to like try to reverse engineer the calculation, so it doesn't matter. And it's not likely to have an impact. So let's just understand what it does. All right, so it will increase your drop rates. Yay, that's pretty apparent. It increases your critical hit rates. Yay, that's really cool. Except that I believe critical hit rates are also impacted by the type of weapon you're using. Like I think like short swords and stuff like that do more crit damage. I'm not completely 100% on that, but that's my understanding. So like there's other ways to get that. Critical hit damage in some cases, but for the most part, it's not going to matter. We're not going to bother going through the calculations. It's not worth your time. And it increases the odds of talisman preventing damage, which is really cool, but not really a big deal because you're not likely to be wearing talisman most of the time. So luck doesn't matter too much. The only thing I would do with luck, like if I wouldn't menu for like a lapis, but if I was in the menu, I'd probably, or maybe I would if it was early in the game to at least increase my common drop table drops. But so like a lapis increases your luck by 20. That's cool. The If I was going to start the game and have nothing, and then I get a weapon drop and I want to equip the weapon, and I get into the menu and I notice I already have a luck potion, and I don't have a shield, I'm probably going to pop the luck potion for free to essentially get like potential extra drops. But like it's not a big deal. I wouldn't really worry about luck too much. Like you'd have to be like really thinking in the moment to say, oh, I have a luck potion. Oh, I should use it now because it's not going to take up one of my slots effectively, right? So we're not going to talk much about luck. We're not going to go through the mechanics of it, all that good stuff. So if you're just here to learn about what these stats do and what status effects do, the video is over for you, okay? No worries. You can take off. I don't care about the YouTube algorithm, right? You can come back later if you want. If you are a nerd or if you are a high-level player and you really want to understand how these things work, then stick around because there are some cool things to learn, all right? So let's get onto it. So strength mechanics. So strength is really cool. It scales very well. So if we add a point of, or how damage works with like weapons and stuff, is that strength adds to our total attack, right? So we add strength to the weapon's base attack, and those two numbers put together equals the total attack and damage output, right? Like we can even add that here, right? We can put like total attack here, and then we can put total attack out here, right? Good stuff. Don't talk shop at total. It's a great cereal. Actually, I've never really had it before, but it's still funny to say. Anyways, okay. So the weapons though have a strength requirement. What? So here's how this works. All right. So if your strength here, like the strength that you have as your baseline stat or any additions to strength, is equal to or greater than the weapon's baseline attack, then you will get 100% of your strength added to the total attack, all right? If it's less than the weapon attack, so your strength is like 12, like in this example here, and the weapon attack is 18, then your strength bonus, not the weapon attack, but your strength bonus is cut in half. So instead of us having 12 strength and then adding 12 to the damage, we're only going to add 6 instead. And then with adding the weapon attack, we're going to get a total of 24 here. Actually, is that right? Yeah, 6. Yeah, that is right. Okay, cool. Didn't want to do that math bad. That'd be embarrassing. All right. So once our strength equals the weapon attack, then we get the full value of our strength plus the full value of the weapon attack, which we always get, to get 36 attack. If our strength exceeds the weapon attack, the calculation doesn't change. We still get our full strength. We still get the full weapon attack, all right? So sometimes in randomizer, if you get an early weapon and you're like, especially like in safe or casual when you don't necessarily know what weapon you have, and you see a damage number that far outweighs your strength, then you could say, okay, I've probably got a weapon that doesn't meet the strength requirement, which is cool. We want that. We don't. It's not a disadvantage, but we may get a bonus later, right? Once we meet that threshold, we will get a bonus, right? So this also applies to special weapon attacks and stuff like that. So like your Masamune slash, which is like does like plus 200 or something like that, a weapon attack. Your strength is not going to make a big deal there because you'd have to have 200 strength to get the full value out of it. You're always going to get half, and you should keep it in mind because like when you look to equip things like the Ring of Ares, like if you have a high damage dealing weapon without your strength, and then you add more strength to it, unless you meet that threshold, you're only getting half value out of it. So is it really worth losing 24 defense to get 12 extra points of damage? I don't know. Most of the time it'll get you over the threshold, but sometimes it won't in some edge cases. The so this leads into a cool example of like why is there an attack potion, why is there a strength potion, right? So the attack potion's always cool. You're always going to get plus 20 damage every time. It's really cool. It's super consistent, right? Sometimes the strength potion is better, sometimes the strength potion is worse. So if the strength potion, by adding 20 strength, doesn't meet the weapon attack requirement with our total strength in mind, plus the 20, then we're only getting 10 points of damage out of it, right? Which kind of sucks. We'd be better off with the attack potion. If we were, like in this first example, if we were lower than the weapon attack, and then adding 20 strength gets us over that threshold, then we get 20 plus the damage we were missing before because we weren't missing the strength requirement. So we would actually, in this case, gain 26 damage. So sometimes strength is better than attack, but most of the time it's going to be the same. You add 20 attack, you add 20 strength, you're probably meeting the strength requirement. So yeah, that's just how it is there. So strength is cool. Once you meet that requirement, then you're going to get the full benefit, and it just scales as such continuously. All right. I've got some other examples here, but yeah, pause the video if you need to see it. Otherwise, we're going to move on to keep this thing short because we're already 16 minutes in. Okay. So intelligence. So remember we said strength is cool. Intelligence is less cool, right? So Alucard's base intelligence is impacts our damage differently than the intelligence we get from items and relics, like the Ring of Vlad, right? So let's look at this. So Alucard's base intelligence only provides a 20% damage benefit? Ew! So if I have 10 intelligence as just Alucard's base stat, then my spell damage per tick is only going up by 2. That's gross. Ugh. Disgusting. Items and relics which provide intelligence provide 80% damage benefit. So if I have the Ring of Vlad, which gives plus 10 intelligence, I will add 8 points to every tick of damage. Why they did this, I don't know. Like, spells are really cool in the beginning of the game because their base damage is pretty good, but like adding to intelligence later doesn't really do a whole lot in most cases. So our smart potion is cool though. So we add 20 intelligence with our smart potion. So every tick of damage will do plus 16 because we will get 80% of the benefit. There's a weird oddity with this calculation, and I don't think this is rounding. Like the way they wrote the calculation out just makes it seem like it's random. But essentially, every time intelligence-based attacks do a tick of damage, it may add 1 at random to the damage. So I don't know. I haven't done the actual code reading myself. I don't know how. But the person who did, which most is based off of, that's what they were saying in their thing. The other thing that can add to our damage is the Mojo Mail. So it will take the spell's base damage plus whatever benefit we're getting from up here, and it will add 50% to our total damage. This includes transformations, and it excludes the Axe Lord armor because we can't have the Brilliant Mail and the Axe Lord armor on at the same time, or the Mojo Mail at the same time. Sorry, Mojo Mail, I get mixed up. But Brilliant Mail, to finish my point here, adds 10 baseline damage to all of our sub-weapons, which is really cool because some of our sub-weapons deal little damage per tick, but Brilliant Mail, like for the Holy Water, like it triples it, like, or it's double the damage on top of it. So it's really triple, yeah, triple, because its baseline is 5. If you're interested in the damage values, they're all right here. This is the damage per tick. Hellfire is both versions. And everything else is just how it is. So pause the video if you're interested. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep her going. Okay, so now that we've looked at how damage is essentially dealt, one last thing about it is that damage is applied to our enemy in 2 steps. The first step is to determine if we're going to have the damage, make it 0 damage, we're going to heal it, or double it. And then after we've taken that value, which comes over here, then we minus the damage by whatever the target's defense is. So it's just a 1-to-1 ratio. So and with the minimum damage being 1. So yeah, it really sucks if you don't out defense the person because you're only doing 1 damage at a time. And it's why it's really important at the beginning of the game to get 12 strength so that you can, even with like no weapons, you can still like quickly get through enemies and do it in much fewer hits because a larger percentage of your damage will get through the defense. Okay. So let's look at Constitution. So Constitution, oh my god, they do Constitution so dirty. All right, so just like Intelligence, items and relics providing additional Constitution points have a much greater effect than Alucard's base stats. So let's look at defense first, all right? So what we're going to do with the additional Constitution is we're going to multiply it by 8. all right? And then we're going to add Alucard's base constitution, all right? So it's even worse than with intelligence. Your base constitution sucks, right? Your additional constitution gets multiplied by 8 every time. And then we're going to see the same when we look at status effect recovery as well, and we'll get to that in the next slide, all right? So I mentioned before that defense calculation works on like on a bad scale. So the more defense that Constitution is giving you, then the more Constitution you need to add your defense up by another point, right? Because this is how it works, all right? So once we've added these two values, so multiplying the additional Constitution by 8 and then adding Alucard's base Constitution, we then find the square root of the above number, right? Square roots suck, right? So here is a table with how square roots work, all right? So the square root of 1 is 1, all right? The square root of 2 is 4. The square root of 3 is 9, and so on, all right? And what happens is that to gain an additional square root, we have to increasingly add to how much we're adding to it to get to the next level. And how much we add is 2 from the previous level, all right? So to go from 1 to 2, we need to add 3, which is 2 plus what we had before, all right? And then to go from 2 to 3, we need to get plus 5, which is 2 plus the previous number, and so on and so forth, all right? So the higher this number goes, the harder it is to achieve the next rung, all right? So we're going to find the square root. And then after we square root this number, we then remove 2 because it's fun, right? Just to like, grind it a bit more, we add 2 or we remove 2. So what that means here is that for us to even get, like if we just look at square roots for a second, right? So if we're going to minus 2, that means we have to have a square root of 3 to even 1 point of benefit, all right? So our base number needs to be 9 to get 1 point of defense. So like when we start the game, we're probably getting 1 point from it, right? Because our base number should probably be 12. And then that would give us a square root of 3 in terms of the closest full number, because we're going to not round and we're not going to consider decimal places. And then it's going to be brought down to 1, so that sucks. All right, so here's the full calculation here. So if we were to do a calculation, so if we had the best cloak in the game, which is Twilight at plus 10, plus we had the Rib of Vlad, that gives us plus 20 Constitution overall. And let's assume our base Constitution is 12. So we take 20 times 8 plus 12 minus 2, which is 172 minus 2, which is 13, and then it gets down to like 11 here, right? So like having plus 11 armor is cool, but we needed like a bunch of things to get there, and there are 9 sets of armor, including Axe Lord and potentially Walk armor, that are tied or higher, right? So it's hard to get defense out of this here. It's really tough, and you really got to add a lot more to get a lot of benefit. So getting to 12, because like in this example we had 11, we would need our base Constitution to be 36. All right, so we're never gonna really get more than 11 out of this. And that's only under a set circumstances. And our base Constitution is the worst. And there is no Constitution potion because the Constitution is just terrible itself. But there is a shield potion, which is way better. It just gives you plus 20 defense, which is actually beneficial. Because if this was just plus 20 Constitution, yeah, you get a bunch from it, but like it probably wouldn't give you plus 20 defense overall. You'd be in a worse place, and it wouldn't be very meaningful. But shield potion is meaningful. You should pick them up, right? So that's how it works for adding defense. So again, sliding scale. The more you put into it, the less you get out. Okay. Not the same with status effect calculations. So there's no like square rooting of this. It's just we take take the base Constitution, or sorry, let me rephrase. So the calculation works a bit differently for poison and curse. So for poison, we take the maximum amount of time, and then we minus our base Constitution times 0.32, which means that 12 base Constitution reduces poison by 3 seconds, which isn't really that impactful. And then we add the additional Constitution times 2.56, which is 8 times more impactful than our baseline Constitution, so that part stays. So even with less or less additional constitution, so like 10 versus 12, the constitution reduces poison by 25 seconds, and it'd be even more if we made this 12, right? So so yeah, that sucks, right? For curse, it doesn't matter so much. I didn't break it down as much because it only lasts 20 seconds and it's not really that impactful. Especially in the area of the game that curse comes up. So don't worry about it too much. But yeah, like if you get poisoned, it can be worth it to get some capes and stuff going on here, or just like having the Rib of Vlad really helps out. But but yeah, your base constitution like does nothing. If you're like later in the game saying, oh well, if I get poisoned, it won't be as big of a deal. It really will be, unless you have something that adds to your constitution. Because like if we were to increase this to like I don't know, like double it to 24, we're only removing 6 seconds of 81 seconds. There is a minimum of 5 seconds. I don't know if you can actually hit it, but yeah, and then the same for curse. It's about 1 second. Okay, so lastly, if you're really a nerd and you want more insights, I've got a Google sheet that goes through all this stuff here. So this is part of a broader sheet which talks about it has a weapon database. It showcases special attack damage. It has a strength requirement calculator on a separate tab, but then like for the stat calculator, it's showing okay, I have 12 Constitution. What will my durations be? And then how is it even better with my plus? And you can see that adding 12 made a much bigger difference. And then your intelligence and how much that matters for hit. And it even breaks it down by damage per hit for spells, and then transformations, and then down here for sub weapons, and then how it's impacted with the Mojo Mail, and how it adds to it, or with Brilliant Mail how it adds +10. And then the damage types and all that stuff. So that's cool. I'm going to link that in the description as well. It's definitely worth it, especially the weapon database, which might be a bit intimidating if you're only a 100 series player and you're still learning. Don't worry about this point. And really, you shouldn't worry about any of this stuff if you're a 100 series player. This is just for nerds or people who are more along their journey. You've got other things to look to achieve at this point. Anyways, so that's it for this video. Hopefully you found it insightful. It's not specific to the randomizer in so much that everything that exists in this exists in vanilla, but it's still cool to know, and it can certainly have an impact on your randomizer races. So that being said, I'm out of here. Hope we will see you in the next one. Any corrections will be in the pinned comment, of course. All right, cheers.